And this morning we're travelling to the heart of the Inner West and the Burwood area. It'll be 150 years since it had that name. Of course, long before that, the Wongal people were in this part of Sydney. John Faker has been the mayor for 18 years and he's with us in the studio this morning. Hello.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Tell us about your area.
Well, Burwood's a great place. It's very diverse. It's very vibrant. I love it. I was born there.
Born and bred.
Yeah, born and bred. My kids are born there. My wife was born there. We just love the area. It's got a variety of different people with different cultural backgrounds. It's got your traditional immigrants. Now we're seeing a wave of new immigration from our Asian communities. So it's a great place. I love it. I'm really passionate about it. I love contributing and being a part of that community. We've still got some great areas that really have that sense of community across all our suburbs there. We've got 6 suburbs, so it's quite a diverse place. It's challenging sometimes, especially with all the new urban growth that we're experiencing.
And we'll get to that in just a moment. But it's interesting because your family, you were born there, but your family were from Lebanon.
That's right. Yeah.
So you're sort of a microcosm of how it's changed, right?
It has, yeah. So there's still very traditional immigrants there from Italy, Greece, Lebanon. Because they went around the local churches and that's where they based themselves. Now we're seeing a wave of immigrants from Asia, and it's bringing some great qualities to the area. And it's just great seeing how people are mixing. It's a great melting pot. I think it's a great example of the Australian story. It's the 5th most diverse community in the country.
You track that Australian story, don't you?
Yeah. And I've experienced it, so I know how our new immigrants need to be heard, need to be involved, need to be included, and that's what we really try to do at council. 1300 222 702 is the number. You've had this massive population growth in the area, and it's going to get even larger. Like your population's going to almost double again. That's right. In 17 years, we're going to experience a population growth of about 17,000 new residents. We're just over 40,000 at the moment. So that brings challenges. Real big challenges for us. So we need to ensure that we're not just cramming people into boxes, if you like. So that's why one of my key priorities is ensuring that we are trying to always advocate to the state government to get more planning powers back for local councils, because our planning system is broke at the moment. It's broke because we have a ticker box type system. With heights and densities and setbacks and so forth. And if you walk through our community and walk through the local Burwood area, you never find 2 blocks alike. So we want to encourage more place designing for places, more spaces within those developments, creating better amenity for developments, allowing residents to feel like they're living in a home. 150 years ago when they settled in Burwood between, smack bang in the middle between the city and Parramatta, we were creating horizontal streets. Now we're creating vertical streets, vertical communities, and we need to ensure that they are a community. They're not just people sleeping in space.
Yes, well, that's the thing. It's changed a lot. There's beautiful old heritage homes in parts of your area as well, because you take in parts of Strathfield, Burwood Heights, Enfield, parts of Croydon and Croydon Park. So how have you managed, have you lost some of that heritage in that enormous growth you've had that's still going?
Well, Sarah, what we are managing to do is that we're providing that growth and that density in the town centre, in our CBD. And the key reason for that is there's a number of those, but we want to protect the residential character and those heritage areas in our residential streets. So we don't want to lose that. So our new housing, our new densities, for our population growth are being concentrated in the Burwood Town Centre. The cost of that is that we are seeing taller buildings. That's going to happen, so we don't have the sprawl across our residential streets. Taller buildings, it sort of fits as well because it means you've got people living closer to amenities, living closer to services, public transport. It's created a more vibrant town centre now, and it's quite diverse. So it's been a good mix, and I think it's working.
1300 222 702. Perhaps your council area has the same, I suppose, not pressure, but I suppose development issue in terms of getting more people in, going up rather than out so you can preserve heritage, but keeping an area exciting, diverse and not too ticky-tacky. What would you change, John Faker? You said if you had more planning powers back at the council, how would you do things differently from the development you've had there now and the new residents?
Well, all our developments now are approved by what they call estate panels. What I would change is concentrating more on building design, building amenity for our residents. Some of the things that we have tried to change through our planning codes and our DCPs and LEPs is making developers have to provide 50% of the roof space as green landscape space.
We're just talking about green space in Sydney.
Yeah, so it's providing not just a place for the residents to actually go out and enjoy that space, but creating more shade cover. I would provide, one of the things we've also changed now is we're mandating that you have to include some type of public art instalment encompass that in either the design or in some of the spaces within the building. One of the things that I would like to see more of, which we don't have the power to enforce, is have to mandate spaces within the development, like an acoustically treated music training room, for example, because we've got a lot of those kids that live in those developments that want to play an instrument and
they got nowhere to practice.
And they've got nowhere to practice. So we've created those spaces actually in our community hub at council, in our library and community spaces, but it'll be great to have more of those spaces in some of those developments.
Sally's texted in saying, yes, Burwood's a diverse and vibrant community, but some of the architecture of this high-rise is pretty awful, especially the block along the railway line. Can you comment on the aesthetic of the architecture? Are you saying that's because of the state laws?
Well, it's because it's a ticker box system. The building that she's referring to was actually a building that council fought in the Land and Environment Court, and we lost. We actually appealed that decision. It cost our ratepayers $1 million in legal fees at the time.
Yeah, because it's the state law. But the other thing about the state law is it's meant to reduce the corruption at the same time that can happen on the local ground.
And we believe you could have a great mix to achieve that. So don't increase the densities. So we're not allowing more development to be included in those sites, but allow some flexibility to provide better design outcome. It might mean skinnier, taller towers and providing more space on the ground floor, for example. One of the things we're noticing in our town centre now with a newer generation of immigrants that are coming is they love to meet in public spaces. That's why council is actually leading the way with our urban park and cultural centre, providing those squares and those spaces within the town centre where people want to go and meet.
Have you got Tai Chi in the local parks, things like that?
Yes, we've got Tai Chi. We installed outdoor table tennis tables because our communities want to go and actually congregate and enjoy. Sometimes I'll be walking my dog through the park and I'll actually stop and have a chat with our residents. I
thought you said you were about to say your dog does a bit of Tai Chi.
He tries, but it doesn't work. Well, he's got a Japanese name, so...
Sorry, you were saying you walk through the area. So you see people outside. There's an outside gathering space for those who are... So they're also not too isolated in that development area that has gone up, that is more high-rise, more public space as well. And what sort of public art have you got in terms of these developments that you're particularly proud of, John Faker?
Well, in the last 2 years, council has commissioned 15 public art programs, and we've had 30 artists that were employed. It was quite important during COVID to ensure that our culture and art wasn't lost. Recently, we won one of the awards in the Australian Street Art Awards, which is the Last Lion, which is the entrance art project that was as you walk into Burwood Chinatown. So it's great. I love the arts. I think our importance of providing a sense of community is providing that art and people's experiences to interpret different art projects, interpret art pieces We've got a great art prize that's coming up again. It's in its 4th year. It's working well. We're opening it up across Sydney. So we really want to be the heart, the precinct of our arts and cultural centre here in Sydney.
But did you grow up in this area of Sydney? Are you living in it now? What would you like to ask the Mayor? John Faker is his name. It's 18 minutes past 10. Sarah Macdonald with you on mornings. Robin's in North Parramatta but grew up in the Enfield end of Croydon Park, knows the area well, including its heritage. Please don't make the same mistakes as Parramatta. We've destroyed some heritage such as Willow Grove. And other people are kind of upset about the sort of wind tunnel factor you get with those high-rise issues as well. So this is the thing in these, when you go up, so you don't take public space on the ground, there's more than just green space to think about, isn't there? There's this sort of impact on the shading, the wind, and all sorts of things such as that.
And that's why it's really important. I've been really, one of my priorities is pushing government to allow councils, for example, to have more powers to look at ways to decrease wind issues. One of the wind issues that you experience also is for the residents that are actually living in the towers. They live on their balconies. So we want to ensure how can buildings be designed so they get less wind impact, so they can actually sit out and enjoy their balcony, not just have it sort of there as a
like
place.
It blown around when they're on it, yes. I think Tai Chi is Chinese, someone's pointing out, not Japanese. But yes, and dogs can't do it, that's for sure. Marge says there's rough sleeping in Burwood Park. What about that? Can you do anything about that? You've still got people, and this happens everywhere in Sydney, you get people in the centre of city still sleeping rough in the parks and under bridges.
And it's really sad that in today's Australian society, we still see people sleeping rough. Council is working with a number of community agencies as well as community groups. So we attend to those people that are sleeping rough. Sometimes there's an individual circumstance. So there might be some mental health issues that people are dealing with, Sarah, and don't want help. But we've created a number of health packs as well as help packs that we go out and visit and speak to those rough sleepers. Recently, Council undertook an audit. So we went out with community members. Our staff went out and actually did an audit so we can actually count and gauge how much rough sleepers we have, not just in our park, but in our town centre.
What did you find?
I haven't seen the results of the audit yet.
You're doing that now. It was amazing in COVID, wasn't it? We could actually bring people in. The homeless got places to stay. They got cared for. But now back on the streets again for so many.
And it's sad. I mean, a country like Australia, which has got great opportunity. I mean, we spoke about immigration and how it provides opportunity for members that have come from across the seas. But it's sad that we're still seeing that. We need to do a lot more work. We need a lot more support from governments. It's a real issue, and it's only getting worse, Sarah, especially over COVID and now with the state of the economy and the interest rate increases.
And the rent's going up.
And rent's going up. It's putting more and more pressure on people, and it's sad that we're seeing an increase in that area.
Jane says every council needs spaces for teenagers and young people that are not just skate parks. What kind of work are you doing in the Burwood area for this?
Well, we've got a number of projects in Burwood. One of those, for example, is our aquatic centre. So we're encouraging people to get out and swim. We're spending $50 million on a new upgrade for that centre. We've got
the Enfield Aquatic Centre. Because this is often, we were chatting about these on those really hot days earlier this year about the real impact. You've got ageing aquatic centres that need to be done up, and concrete cancer, some of them, and the huge amount of cost in fixing things up.
Massive costs. I mean, $52 million on an aquatic centre. But one of the things that drives me and our council is to ensure that we have places for people of all abilities as well as families, seniors and our youth. I remember as a child, we didn't have holidays. Our parents immigrated here, were born here. It was all about school and working in our parents' local shop. But I remember our holiday was going to Leichhardt pools, and your parents allowing you to go and swim. But they had these great green spaces, and you'd put a mat out and actually enjoy that space. So I always envisaged that, we've lost some of those spaces in Sydney, and we need to create we need to create that again, and that's why I'm really passionate about ensuring we've got spaces, not just in Enfield at the Aquatic Centre, but all our public spaces. We've got 24 parks and reserves, and if you walk through our parks and reserves, you'll see spaces for everybody.
Yep. Someone's saying that your dog will be good at yoga with the downward dog, John Faker. There has been heritage lost, a beautiful home lost to a childcare centre, says one texter, and now they're trying to heritage list some more of them. The nighttime economy is also a big issue in the area. You've got a fantastic restaurant scene. Jen says her foodie son from the eastern suburbs went to Burwood last week just to dine at a Chinese restaurant he'd heard about. He said the food service was very traditional and authentic. In terms of the nighttime economy, what are the challenges here?
Well, the challenges are ensuring that we keep that vibrancy and that diversity, but we keep that in a safe manner. So we're looking at a number of strategies at the moment. We're working with state agencies. We're working with the 24-hour nighttime economy commissioner. We want to ensure that if you come to Burwood, you enjoy those experiences like that foodie just mentioned, but at the same time you do that in a safe fashion, and that our residents still have their amenity protected. So we need to also look, for example, we spoke about the planning laws. One of the things that we need to do as a council is update our DCPs and LEPs to ensure that a condition is placed there to provide acoustically treated windows and doors on some of those apartments. So when you have noise emanating from the lower levels, it's not transmitting into their units and they can still get a good night's sleep.
So it's not too noisy. What about a theatre? A couple of people texting in for the area. You mentioned music rooms. What about a theatre? We're
looking at part of our upgrade for the Urban Park and Cultural and Arts Centre that's going. We're converting a car park, which is in front of the library. We're placing that underground. We're going to create this great urban park, a great culture and arts centre, which will have a theatre red in there. For smaller performances, up to 220 seats. It'll have a nice bar cafe where people can actually meet and showcase some of their public art and sculptures. We're really, really looking forward. And that hopefully will be starting by year's end.
All right. Well, there's lots going on. It's a very vibrant part of Sydney, but you have got those eternal challenges that I think many parts of our city have, haven't we, in terms of population growth, trying to ensure you keep diversity and excitement in a place, but you also preserve a great place to live.
And we're doing our best in preserving. Like one of my priorities is always to ensure that we protect our heritage homes. We're listing more and more heritage homes, more conservation areas. Our recent one, I put up a Merrill Minute to individually list all the homes in the Appian Way, for example, as heritage items.
That's a very special street. I mean, that is one of the most incredible streets in Sydney. Don't tell me that's not heritage listed.
Well, I was shocked to learn that it was only a conservation area.
What?
So the street was a conservation area. And when we learnt that, we quickly acted to ensure that we actually list every individual home there as a heritage item. I live in a heritage home. I live in a Victorian home, Sarah, so I appreciate them. I know it's not for everybody, but I love the history. I love the story of heritage homes. It's a bit of a story of how, Burwood evolved. We love that, and we want to continue to protect that while it is at the same time providing places, new places for new residents.
Yeah, and you're getting the new metro. That's been put off for some years, though, that new metro line.
Great news. We're getting the metro. It started 2028, 2030. It's coming. We're going to have 2 rail lines. I mean, it's quite rare to have an area, a local government area, Sarah, that has actually 2 rail networks in its CBD. So it's going to provide some challenges, but it's going to be a great opportunity. 40,000 passengers an hour and a metro train every 2 minutes. It's a great story for Burwood, and I think it speaks about how important Burwood is strategically located and the advantages it has. So, and it's a great employment hub. So it's a great story for us.
All right. Well, great to meet you, and thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Thanks, Sarah. Always great to meet you.
Best wishes to all who live in the Burwood area. John Faker is your mayor, and some of the issues Burwood faces. Of course, we're here across Sydney, and we'll be meeting more mayors in this time slot on the show. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're listening to Mornings with Sarah Macdonald.